A few days ago, Fortnite released a ton of new information about how they developed their Fracture event, and despite the underwhelming chapter finale that we got in-game, I think that if Epic went with their initial plans, it could have been one of the best live events in Fortnite history. Now before we enjoy ourselves too much, we do have to take a look back at the event we got, and the three main issues that made it so poorly received. The first of which being timing. I mean, if you were to tell me that throughout that entire 40 minutes, you did not once think, okay, do I just back out, like I don't want to do this anymore? You would be lying to me. It was a boring event. I think that whole problem extends off of another issue as well, that this sort of just felt like a creative map. Going around collecting the 0 point orbs and throwing them back into the actual 0 point to rebuild it or reforge the island or whatever just felt like a real cop-out for an end of chapter event, and I think Laserbeam puts it perfectly.
There wasn't even an event though! There wasn't even an event! It was 2 trailers and fetching orbs for 35 minutes!
I think a lot of people reacted like this because by the end of the whole thing, they were just really tired of walking around doing the same thing. And if Epic was to still implement this sort of creative style game mode into the event, but not for nearly as much time, I think it would have been much better received. And you know, that's actually what the initial plan for Fracture was. Instead of us collecting 0 point fragments for 40 minutes straight with a cutscene at the start and the end, the cutscenes were actually meant to be cut up throughout the event, and we were meant to find them on different pieces of the island as flashbacks, meaning that we wouldn't have been on that area for as long. We would have gone back to the island and seeing how it exploded and how everything brought us to where we were in that moment, and it would have added a hell of a lot more mystery and intrigue and even just build up for the event. I mean, imagine if it started like this rather than what we actually got. After floating in space like this, we would have then gone into the 0 point, been brought to the sort of Fracture minigame area, and then the snow biome would have been pulled in. And in that snow biome, we would find a flashback similarly to how we interacted with the things that showed us the past of the cube, the rocket, and the mech. This flashback, instead of showing us Fortnite's past events, would have actually showed us yet another glimpse at what happened on the island before we were brought into Fracture. It being all split up like this seems to also give the event a hell of a lot more purpose, which is something Fracture definitely lacked. Instead of us collecting fragments for near to an hour, we would have seen massive biomes get pulled in instead of just tiny chunks of land, and we would have explored them, admired the stunning visuals, and found flashbacks that told us how the island was exploded. A good friend of mine, Jay Pexo, also pointed out that if the event was to follow this style, our memories alongside the island would have been fractured as well, which I think is a nice touch. And it's definitely what Epic were initially going for, considering the trailer for Fracture showed all kinds of memories across the story. So now that you know what the Fracture event could have been like, the question at least rises in my mind as to why Epic didn't do this. Why did they basically just give us a creative map with an intro and an ending if it could have been an event about exploring and piecing together the memories that we lost? Well, I think I might have the answer, and it's pretty well explained through this clip from my good friend Clark Clint's stream.
Home is gone.
Wait, what? Home is gone.
See, when he went through the Fracture event, and maybe this happened to many of you as well, his game completely lagged out and he didn't even get to see the cutscene at the start. But from what we know, Epic's initial plan of the event was sort of similar to this. We weren't meant to know what was going on and why we were floating around in the stars. And I think the confusion that he and many other people who missed the cutscene showed expresses perfectly what Epic Games were worried about. They likely thought that showing this sort of linear story throughout the event was a more clear way to express what had happened. So instead of taking a risk and splicing it up and making us have to figure out exactly why we were where we were, they went for a more boring route, which is why we too thought it was boring. But even the story they told was just disconnected, and I think that applies to the whole plot of Chapter 3 Season 4. It felt like a really sour goodbye to the Fortnite world, because a lot of people don't realize this bubble that exploded in the span of like, what, 2 minutes? That is where we and the loopers and the 7 and everyone had spent the last 5 years of their life, or maybe more in Fortnite years. But a place like this that held so many valuable memories was just exploded in the span of like 2 minutes. And to add on to that, does anyone actually know how the Herald's tree turning chrome and exploding everything makes any sense? But even so, if that had been shown over the span of 40 minutes rather than 2, it would have been so much more special, and I think from the storyboard we would have actually played our final moments on the island rather than just watching it happen. Cause I mean, come on, that's not a proper goodbye. Chapters 1, 2, and 3... Actually, no, maybe not 3. But chapters 1 and 2 told such a memorable story that we just lost in like a matter of seconds. I need to give a final salute to those... what are they called? Coral buddies? But you know, maybe I'm just way too into this. Maybe Fracture couldn't have been the best event of all time, but honestly I think it could have. And I think Epic should have taken the risk in possibly making the event not make quite as much sense and just give us the flashbacks. I mean, you have the cutscene, you can do it easily. I feel like a rush change like this, which sort of threw the event off course, wouldn't have been made if Mustard was still in charge of creative direction. So now that we do have Charlie Wen stepping in, hopefully this won't happen again, and we will have some great events in the future. At the same announcement where they showed us how the Fracture event could have gone, we also got to hear that Fortnite does have a few events in the works, including both story ones and concerts. Let's hope that those ones are good and they tell a captivating story and they entertain you just as much as this video did. No, but seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, feel free to like and subscribe for more videos like this, and let's hope Fortnite's on the uphill.